Welcome to Center for East Turkestan National Interest. Our Center for East Turkestan National Interest is closely monitoring China's policies in East Turkestan. While there have been no significant policy change, the use of harsh policy words such as no mercy, re-education forces, and strike hard campaign against three evil forces in Chinese government officials' words has slightly lessened compared to before. Today, we aim to explore the implications of this slight shift in language alongside China's actual actions in the region. Welcome again, Ms. Ruqya Turdush. She is a researcher at the Center for East Turkestan National Interest and the author of East Turkestan's Right to Sovereignty, Decolonization, and Beyond. So, Ms. Ruqya Turdush, my first question for you is, from October 21 to 24, Chinese official Wang Huning visited Khotan and Kashgar in East Turkestan. During his visit, he gave speech and talked about five recognition and ethnic unity. So could you analyze his speech and what is the underlying message?
Wang Huning is the chairman of the National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. So he has significant influence over China's policies, especially in ethnic policies in East Turkestan. Like other Chinese officials, he also used to repeat Xi Jinping's words and Xi Jinping's doctrines in his speech and reflect the Chinese Communist Party's genocidal intent, because their speech is implemented as a policy regardless of their catastrophic destructiveness on Uyghurs and other Muslims in the region. And most of the time, their speech is implemented. For example, he stated that Xi Jinping's famous five recognitions, which include recognition with the Chinese motherland, recognition with Chinese culture, recognition with the Chinese Communist Party and the Chinese characteristics, socialism, and so on. These doctrine or concepts are fundamentally disconnected from the heritage and the values of Uyghurs and other Turkic people, and it's nothing to do with them. All of these Chineseness and China has really nothing to do with Uyghur and other Turkic people's motherland and their culture and their value. So through the five recognitions, the Chinese government aims to erase Uyghur identities and their connection to their own homeland in East Turkestan. So his words proving that how PRC government hate diversity of culture, and his words also expose that their goal is to impose a singular Chinese national's identity on all. When he talked about ethnic unity, particularly, he said starting with children. That means starting with Uyghur children. And this is very alarming. If we nakedly say it, it's Stalin of Uyghur children. They have already removed 900,000 Uyghur children from their home to prison-style orphanage camps to indoctrinate them and to transform them into Han Chinese. Even outside of those orphanage camps in East Turkestan, many of the Uyghur children have either one parent or relatives are imprisoned or lost in the prison, and most of them in Chinese boarding schools. So they go through with indoctrination too. Besides Chinese government policy of practice Chinese families to sleep over in Uyghur families to promote so-called ethnic unity is imposed, and people really fed up about that. No one likes that. So imposing ethnic unity starting from children is extremely nefarious. Genuine relationship between people should be built on mutual trust and respect for differences. This kind of thing is not exist in East Turkestan today. And given these realities, I don't think their ethnic unity policy will be successful.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ruqya Turdush. That was very clear. So move on to the next question. Chinese government officials described East Turkestan as a bridge for opening the Western region. So is this a new concept, and what does it signify? And additionally, what underlying message may be conveyed by this characterization? Thank you.
No, the strategic importance of East Turkestan is not a new thing to China. Historically, I mean, if we talk about China's colonization period in East Turkestan, when China is weak, it always sees East Turkestan as a protective barrier against outside forces or influences. When China gains its power and gets stronger, it sees East Turkestan as a gateway for expanding its influence and the colonization efforts to the West through the land. However, China is well aware of its neighbor's sensitivity regarding colonialism, which is why it often frames its expansion of influence in these countries as a part of a new world order in opposition to the Western world order. I mean, opposition to today's Western world order. This kind of narrative is designated to convince other countries that China is looking for only economic cooperation through a New Silk project and not hegemonic status like United States. Actually, this alternative world order that China providing, rooted in China's Tianxia ideology, basically suggests a multipolar system without international consensus where countries can do whatever they want independently, so no one can interfere them, even they implement genocide like China. Obviously, this could lead chaos and instability in this world. When there is no international order, of course, it's impossible to prevent large scale of war, even if it's happened, right? I also would like to add something here, that what is implication of slight changes of China's euphemistic words recently. So recently Chinese officials more often saying Xinjiang is a bridge for open up the West, and they are genocidal words that they use it repeat before, such as absolute no mercy. Absolute no mercy is Xi Jinping's words and the doctrine. And intensify re-education, strike hard three evil forces, poverty alleviation. Those kind of genocidal words describing their policies is slightly diminished in their speech but not disappeared. This is clearly shows that they have already successfully completed genocide in East Turkestan and maybe moving second step, which is expand to the West through East Turkestan. So it should be, I think, alarming message to the Central Asia and the Europe.
Oh, you say that they have completed genocide. Does that mean China has stopped the genocide in East Turkestan?
No, that's not what I mean. I mean China achieved its genocidal plan and already destroyed half of the Turkic population in the region. That's what I want to say, because destroying part of the population still can be genocide. If we look at the definition of genocide convention, it indicates that genocide means any of the 5 acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part. I repeat, in whole or in part a national, ethical, racial, or religious group. So I can say that China successfully destroyed Uyghurs in part, but that does not mean that genocide is stopped. Because we learned that detaining people for re-education camp and forced labor camps are still existing today. And millions of detained and imprisoned Uyghurs were not released yet, and we don't know what's happening to them. Maybe most of them were killed. We also know that to solidify its control over East Turkestan, China already has implemented genocidal plan and the policies since 2017 and tried to erase Turkic population in the region. And until today, no one able to stop this genocide. And as a result, China has grown more confident. Meanwhile, they are trying to hide its genocide in order to not to show their evil face to the world. And that's the reason why China creates staged events for journalists and diplomats and sending puppet Xinjiang government officials to foster diplomatic ties with neighboring countries to create false image that the region has autonomy and the region's officials can build the diplomatic ties and the connections with other countries. So, but that's totally fake, and that they are the puppet. And it's also evident that Uyghur and other Turkic population in East Turkestan is still suffering under genocide. Let me tell you, otherwise, why those Chinese officials like Wang Honing emphasized in his speech about the role of Bingtuan in the region. He said it's necessary to carry out Chinese construction corps spirit, or Bingtuan spirit in his own words, the deepen the development of these Bingtuan troops and use the new advantages of these troops to maintain the stability of the border. So these words, if we analyze, is clearly targeted at the Uyghur and other Turkic population in the region again. The Bingtuan is a clear manifestation of Chinese colonialism, that existing only in East Turkestan, nowhere else. It presents directly supports China's genocidal policies in the region. So we can't say that genocide is stopped over there. It's ongoing.
Thank you for your explanation. And in October 2024, the 25th plenary meeting of the 79th session of the UN General Assembly was held, and a draft resolution titled Zone of Peace, Trust and Cooperation of Central Asia was adopted. The document was co-sponsored by 37 states, including China, Russia, and Turkey. Do you think China's sponsorship of this document is related to China's open to the West policy that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think it's related. Clearly, China and Russia are actively building alliance with vulnerable and weak states in Central Asia, and strategically positioning themselves to challenge the Western world order. But this alliance places Central Asian countries heavily under China's influence, I think, and potentially eliminating any future support from these Central Asian countries to the Turks in East Turkestan. In this way, China will achieve alienation of East Turkestan independence movement successfully. And that is the China's main purpose, I think. And also, creating a zone of peace in Central Asia is certainly advantageous for China's New Silk Road project, since it helps safeguard for this project. However, this is a contradict in China's actions. While it promotes peace in Central Asia, the China threatening the existence of 20 million Turks in East Turkestan that racially, religiously, and culturally related to Central Asian Turks and the Turkey through oppressive and the genocidal policies. So we believe that for China, peace appears mean prioritizing its own interests at the expenses of others rather than fostering genuine harmony. And if China continues with this mindset, it not only risks failing to contribute to a true zone of peace in Central Asia, but may also threaten the stability of Central Asian countries in the future. I believe that today's East Turkestan, tomorrow it could be Central Asian countries.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and found it insightful. Don't forget to subscribe and join us next time for more thought-provoking discussions. Until then, take care and stay curious.